this video, we'll be looking at quadratic equations. We're going to start with what is a quadratic equation. This is the general form of a quadratic equation. Here you can see that the highest power is 2, which means that this equation will have two solutions or two roots. There are three methods of solving a quadratic equation. The first one, factorization or middle term breaking. The second one, using the quadratic formula. And the third one is the completing square method. This video will be doing the factorization method. So from the name, you can tell that we'll be breaking down the middle term. So this is our general form of the equation, and this is the middle term. We'll be breaking this down into two parts. Let's call it D and E. Now there are two rules that we need to keep in mind when breaking them down. First rule is that the product of D and E should be equal to the product of A, which is the coefficient of x squared, and C, which is the constant. And the second rule is that the sum of D and E should be equal to B, which is the coefficient of x. So let's do this with an example. So here we know that we need to break down 5x into two parts, D and E. So keeping the rules in mind, we know that D and E should be, this product of D and E should be equal to the product of A and C. So here our A is 1 and our C is 6. So the product should equal 6. And the sum should equal B, and B is 5 over here. So as this is a simple question, we know that 3 into 2 will give us 6 and 3 plus 2 will give us 5. So we're going to break this down. We're going to write x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6 equal to 0. Then we're going to factorize this. From here we can take x common, and from here we can take 2 common. As both of these are similar, we'll write them together, then we'll write them together. And we're going to put this whole thing equal to 0. Then we're going to put this whole thing equal to 0. From here we're going to get x equals to minus 3. From here we'll get x is equals to minus 2. So these two are the values that satisfy this quadratic equation. Let's do one more example. Now this looks similar to the previous example, but here we have minus 5x. So the product of D and E should still give us 6, but the sum of D and E should give us minus 5 this time. So what are two values? When we multiply, we get positive 6. When we add or subtract, we get minus 5. So if we multiply minus 3 and minus 2, we'll get positive 6. This minus minus is plus. Then we write minus 3 minus 2, it will give us minus 5. So here our D and E is going to be minus 3 and minus 2. From here we're going to take x common. From here we'll take minus 2 common. As we took minus 2 common, this sign will turn into minus as well. We're going to put this equal to 0, and then we're going to put this equal to 0. From here we're going to get x, which is equals to 2, and x, which is equals to 3. So now these two are the values that satisfy this quadratic equation.